I'm joined now by the mayor of Houston, Texas, Sylvester Turner. Mayor Turner, thank you for being with us. I thought about you as we started to watch these numbers pick up this week. We hear about border facilities being over capacity, not all that far from Houston, Texas. What kind of impact does the city of Houston feel when the numbers spike at the border?
Well, I think we're all impacted, whether you're a city in the state of Texas, or quite frankly, whether you're cities in other parts, whether you're in New York, Denver, Chicago, D.C., L.A. I talk to mayors all the time across this country, and I think we all face the impact. There's no question we have a clear immigration problem, and we do need Congress to enact legislation in a comprehensive way to address a problem that clearly exists. So there's no question about that.
We've heard from some of those other mayors about the cutbacks and things like that they've had to make in New York or Chicago, the way that this crisis has affected their budgets. What's the effect been like in Houston over this last year?
Well, in Houston, the problem has not been as acute as what I'm hearing. And
what do you attribute that to?
Well, I think what's happening in the state of Texas, for example, is that the state, the governor, is sending people by buses or planes, sending them to other cities outside of the state of Texas. So I think what you will find, if you're not one of those border cities, like El Paso, if you're not one of those border cities where people are coming over, the impact for other Texas cities further away is not as acute. But when you have...
What do you make of that, Mayor? Should those folks be staying in Texas? Is that the governor shifting what could be Texas's responsibility or opportunity as a welcoming state onto other places?
Well, I think the bottom line is that we need a comprehensive immigration reform. Whether you're a Texas city or city someplace else outside of Texas, it is clear we have a problem, an immigration problem. And it is clear that we need comprehensive immigration reform. We've heard that over and over and over again. And we need Congress to act. This is a federal issue, and the problem has to be addressed at the federal level. You can't have different states in the union having their own immigration and enforcement policies. That doesn't solve it. It makes things even worse. So this is an issue. This is an issue begging for congressional action.
To that end, what do you make of the policies just signed into law by your governor this week about, essentially allowing Texas law enforcement to go arrest people who've crossed illegally? What kind of strain does that put on the HPD and on your own law enforcement officials there?
Now, I will say, as it relates to Senate Bill 4, that bill place a severe strain on local authorities and on local resources. Number one, what has been put in place essentially says if someone crosses illegally, that any law enforcement entity in the state of Texas has to step in and become, quote unquote, an immigration officer. That is a mandate being placed on cities that's unfunded. The state didn't provide any funding for that. It diverts human and financial resources from cities like Houston, San Antonio, Austin, El Paso. There are no dollars for that. It puts the mandate on local cities to house these individuals until there's some sort of resolution. There's no funding for that.
Well,
it even causes for the further separation of children from their parents. So there are multiple problems inherent in Senate Bill 4, and then fundamentally, I believe it's unconstitutional.
You were part of a group of mayors who asked the White House, I think, for $5 billion to help address this. Some of your colleagues who were part of that group did ultimately meet with the Biden White House. What kind of information did they get? Are you satisfied with the urgency with which the Biden administration is approaching this issue?
Well, there's no question that more resources are needed. Cities need these dollars. You can't keep adding burdens on top of existing issues that we're having to face without the necessary resources coming on board. So there's no question about that. We do need more federal dollars. But at the same time, we don't need individual states to be engaged in immigration policy. That's the domain of the federal government. We do need Congress, both parties, Democrats and Republicans, in this case, to step up and come forward with comprehensive immigration reform. Until that happens, we're going to have these sort of issues. So I'm not placing the blame, for example, on the Biden-Harris administration. Quite frankly, there's enough blame to go around to everyone. What we do need in this particular area is that we do need Congress to act, the House, the Senate, and we do need people to be on the same page to address a problem that's impacting all of us, cities, states, across the board.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.